special edition of Church After Hours.
Peace and blessings, family. Welcome to a special edition of Church After Hours. The podcast has been on a hiatus. Been dealing with my brothers, seeing when and if we're going to come back. But while we're figuring what we're going to do moving forward, I wanted to bring on my son, as you can see, Millard Diallo Morgan II. He's had a very eventful last 7 months, 8 months of his life. And some of the things we've shared online with you guys, and some things we haven't shared as he's getting ready to go to college. And I was like, I want to have a conversation. Some of you know he's in the process of making a documentary with one of his friends. So we're going to talk about that in this conversation as well. But one of the main things I wanted to touch on is just what life was like this senior year for him as he gets prepared to go into college. So, Emil, how's it going, man? How you doing?
It's been good. About to finishing up work, moving in soon. So just figuring all that out for the most part. And really just trying to get everything situated so I can have a smooth transition.
As you guys can see, he's got all his tubs back there, getting ready, getting packed up, ready to go to OSU, man. So where I want to start this conversation, man. Um, First, I just want to say congratulations on a great year, finishing up strong. We posted some pictures of some of the awards you were able to win this year. Of course, the scholarship at Ohio State, which we'll talk about. But I want to start at the beginning of your senior year. For those that don't know, Mill is a very, very serious student. He has self discipline. My wife and I never had to tell him to study and to stay on top of his things. He's always been good at doing that. But one thing I noticed this year, I felt like you had more fun than you had the previous 3 years of high school. I know your freshman year, you guys were the class that started off with COVID, so it was kind of bittersweet to start high school and having to be online and not be able to be with your friends in school. But what made this year, your senior year, different than those previous 3 years?
Um, well, with my junior year, I had three APs and one honors class. And I was really just in my books for the most part. And I enjoyed my classes, but I didn't really have much free time outside of that. So right when AP testing happened in April, I said for my senior year, I want to ease back, not take my foot off the gas per se, but make more time for other things that are not necessarily academic. So this year I went to more football games. I joined the yearbook club and helped with that. I did a lot of other things outside of school because the only thing I had to like take my mind away from academics was track. So having other avenues was nice, and then making time with my friends, going to their sporting events and things of that nature. Besides that,
Sweet, sweet. So let's start off, man, with one of the things that surprised me and your mom the most, as well as your brother. And we had knew about this program that your school has been having for quite some time. We went last year when you and your brother went to support. I think Johnny was supporting his then girlfriend, and I don't know if Tyler was in it last year or not. But I know you guys have friends that was in the diaspora program, and me and your mom went for the first time. We was like, wow. One, we didn't realize how diverse your school was, because thank God we don't have to go up to the school that often, and I never really go to that many sporting events unless it's baseball for your brother or track for you. So we didn't really get to see the lay of the land. So last year was eye opening for us. So talk about your decision and what made you want to be a part of the diaspora program, something that you hadn't been a part of your 3 previous years in high school.
my decision to do diaspora started sophomore year. After two of my track teammates did it, and I saw them do it. I'm like, I want to do that, but I didn't do it my junior year because I was so busy with my classes that I couldn't make time for it. But this year I had the commitment to do it. So this year I got to lead a team of students to make a short film, which is around 6 minutes, about the process of putting on diaspora, as well as I got to participate with the West African group for our dances, as well as I was supposed to have a speech. I was supposed to give a speech, but that didn't happen for circumstances that I'm guessing we're going to get to later. But for the most part, it was great being around a diverse group of people, meeting more of the underclassmen from my background of West Africa and things of that nature was great. And really just having fun making the film. I definitely there were times it wasn't the most fun, especially during that last week when I had to stay up a lot to try and fix a lot of last minute changes for it. But I like the way it turned out in the end. So
Yeah, yeah, the film was awesome. And if you guys haven't seen it, please check it out. We posted it a few places. And when we talk about the speech, shout out to the Columbus Dispatch. They actually posted it on their website as well. And you got a lot of traction from that. So for those that don't know a lot about the diaspora program, kind of explain a little bit about what the program was and why it's even in existence. Because a lot of people were surprised to see something like that taking place in Licking County. Licking Heights is right on the border of Franklin and Licking County, but the school is actually in Licking County. So when they seen and heard about this program, a lot of people who are familiar with the Columbus and Columbus surrounding areas was very shocked to see something like that taking place. So talk a little bit about the program and what it entails and when that got going.
So the program is technically diaspora is under the culture identity club at Licking Heights. And they have events all throughout the year, but diaspora is the biggest one, and that's when they get the most amount of people for it. And diaspora is simply just a performance showing off your cultures in unique ways. So there was West Africa, there was Nepal, there was East Africa for there's East Africa, there was we also have an HBCU thing. Many people get to sing, and many different acts and things of nature go on. We have a decades fashion show, a cultural fashion show, and so on and so forth. That's the main reason. That's the main thing we do, and generally, it's just to show the diversity and celebrate the diversity that makes up our district. For the most, because our district, if you looked at it at a glance, you wouldn't think that it's as diverse uh as it is.
Right.
But the show is just to show that we do have this diversity at hand.
Right. Because if you're in Licking County, whether you're and this is no shade, but if you're in, Newark, Johnstown, Grandview, Pataskala, Etna, a lot of these different places that we've been, to play baseball, you see a lot of Trump signs and you see a lot of elements that doesn't scream diversity or any type of diaspora or cultural shining lights on cultural excellence. So that to me was dope in itself to see that the school was having that type of a program. So when me and your mom found out you were going to be a part of the program this year and you was doing a documentary, we were excited. But not only that, you had told us what I can't even remember, maybe a week or 2 weeks that you was doing a speech that you had already got pre-approval for, and you wouldn't share the speech with us, wouldn't tell us what it was about. You said you guys just gotta, come to the performance and see like everybody else. So talk about this speech that you had written and how you got approval and what happened the night before the
So
performance.
so the idea was to do a speech about how basically how my mother immigrated to America from Liberia. That was the first idea. And then I had another idea I was debating on after the genocide in Gaza, just calling for people to be more aware of their surroundings, and be aware of what you support and what that says about you. And the speech we and for diaspora, everyone has to audition. Not everyone gets to do their own individual act. So I
Right,
had to audition my speech. So I auditioned my speech later, but even before auditions, I had written out my speech and handed it to the head of the entire the head of the entire diaspora program. She gave me the green light to audition it. Then I did the audition. Now, to be fair, I didn't do the audition the same time everyone else did. There were a lot of people, and it got backed up that day, so I wasn't able to do my speech in time. So the next day they would have had auditions. I had to work, so I wasn't able to do it. But that's why I already sent my speech in already. So if she
Right.
didn't like my speech because of the content of what I said, she could have told me before I did that. If she didn't like
Right.
my speech for how I spoke and I just said that you just didn't look like you were passionate, that would have been a different story. But she saw me perform it multiple times and kept approving it. So probably I would say the day before I get called into her office and the principal of my school. Now, the person ahead of the DAX program is not the principal,
Right.
but the principal of my school looked at my speech and wanted to make changes to it. So I see that and she's like, "Can you make these changes?" I said yes initially, and I took it and I looked over and I really looked it over and I said, "I don't want to give this speech." So I came back to her before practice that night and I said, "I don't want to give this speech. It's not what I said. It's not what you approved. It's not what we had agreed to. And I feel like that is not, I have to live with this and I don't want to give this speech." So she said, I appreciate that. You don't have to give the speech. So I don't give the speech and I come home upset. And then the next day,
Well,
I come home upset.
let's
Well,
pause
I
right
come home
there.
upset, and then you contacted the
But let's not
school.
even get to me contact anybody. So let's go back one step because this is a part of the story and a part of our family history that we will never forget. We always make fun of Mill and call him emotionless. He hardly ever gets emotional. He's an even keel guy. A lot like myself. I think I tap into my emotions a little bit more than he does. But on this particular day, I will never forget. I'm in my spot, fresh off of work. I'm watching the game or something, just chilling, and he comes in livid. He's hot. I mean, he is hot. I can't believe what they did. Mom, dad, they're not going to let me do my speech. They tried to edit it and edit me, and he showed us the speech. So the fact that he's upset, of course, as a parent, my wife and I are upset as well. It's like, okay, so I have to ask questions. Did they approve you to do the speech? Yes. Why did they approve you to do the speech only to tell you the night before you can't do the speech? Well, because he was talking about Gaza and Israel and some things that was going on in the country, in that part of the world in that country. So they wanted him to change the speech. So I'm like, okay, I do what any concerned parent will do. We call the principal. I speak with her. Very nice lady, but she's not giving me the answers and the things that I deem are necessary. So the first night of the program goes on. At that point in time, I started, activating people and say, hey, this is a serious issue. I reached out to the superintendent, was told to come to a board meeting, which we did go to. But before we move ahead in that regard, talk about you being so upset because again, you can stop me if I'm not telling the truth. You're never really that upset. You never really get that flustered or bothered. What besides them not letting you do the speech, was it something underlining that made you so upset and livid at that point in time when you came home?
I wasn't as much upset as I was confused
Mm,
because I had performed the speech in front of her, I think about 2 days before she had chose to edit the speech. And to give some background and maybe to spoil ahead, basically something had happened in the school with that I wasn't aware of till
right. Something,
probably.
and that's what she told me. Something we don't know to this day is true. I'm not saying that they're lying, but they told us something happened at the school while they told you not to do the speech. But go ahead.
Yes, something had happened, and I have more detail on that, but I'm not. But that involves someone else's business. I'm not going to say that. Go
Got
into
you.
much detail, but something had happened that basically spooked her, and they didn't want my speech to. They didn't want my speech to inflame that.
Mm,
Now, I'll get to it later, but I disagree with that. But I was more confused because I didn't know this at the time. They just kept saying something happened. And I was upset because I was clearly had not done anything. It was already approved. I already did not go into any like statistics, fiery language, calling out any names of any political figures, nothing. It was simply just the only words I used were the names of Palestine and Israel. Those are the only two names that would tell you what I'm talking about in the speech. So I was upset and confused, and I came home in that, I guess, in that confusion, mainly due to the fact that it was approved and it was so late. So now I'm not doing this thing that I already prepared for, and now I'm upset at myself, thinking I should just went with the first idea than this, because I should have known this would happen, and so on and so forth. But night one happens, goes on. Night two, day two happens. Everything goes smoothly. So basically, everything doesn't update till about Wednesday, we went to a board meeting. To go to the board meeting,
On that Tuesday.
On that Tuesday, I give my 2 cents on what happened. And I was very clearly, and the board knew. So then my father talks to superintendent sees me there. And to emphasize, the superintendent has seen me before as one of those, smart kids, smart kid, does what he does and represents the district in a big way. So me already being at a board meeting already says something. So then I say what I said. My father emails that we get called to a meeting, I'll say about a week later on a Wednesday sometime, at school.
Hold on. Just let me back you up, because you forgot one key thing. When we went to that board meeting, myself, along with Professor Malcolm Cash, who's a good friend of mine for well over 15 years, and who's been a mentor to both Mill and Johnny. Me and Professor Cash sit on the school board, and you always have space for public comments. So Mill gave his public comments, and then when myself and Professor Cash tried to give comments, they told us, well, this is a special work session. You guys can't have your public comments. Now, you can only get 2 to 3 minutes. It's not like we're going to filibuster the meeting and talk for 30 to 45 minutes. But they were real rude, real smug, especially the board president. She was really smug. So at that point, I was like, okay, this is about to get ugly. Like, I don't like the way you're treating us. I don't like the way you're very dismissive of us. So that's when we, became super proactive. And then you can continue what you were saying. But I wanted to put that in there, how they didn't even allow us to speak in a public board meeting.
So after that board meeting, we had a separate meeting with the principal, superintendent, Mr. Cash, myself, and my father. So in the meeting, I'm gonna cut a lot of stuff out just for the sake of time. But in the meeting, they point to a school policy basically saying that they can stop any speech that is seen as obscene. Now, I had already known from AP Gov that there is a Supreme Court case basically limiting my right to free speech as a student at school. I have limits, but it's basically don't shout fire in a crowded theater kind of
right.
Limits. I can't do anything that would incite danger. So me could be thinking, nowhere in this speech do I incite for violence. Nowhere in this speech do I call for anything like that. I don't do anything of that nature where you could say, even in a legal or realistic sense, say I was doing that. Then I'm thinking, okay, political speech is allowed. And I'm thinking you could definitely read my speech as political, but this is a diaspora event where we speak about other people's backgrounds that deal with political matters. I know this is a lot. Like, I know political speech is allowed, right? So me knowing political speech is allowed to this court case, I'm knowing there's very little. You would have to make my speech look like it's that, look like something else. So he points to a school policy basically saying that anything I'm saying is obscene or defamatory. Now, I had not said any statistics, and with that, I didn't say any false statistics, as well as I pointed to very clear evidence of just death and destruction and genocide going on in the area. I didn't specify which side, but it's implied that it's Palestine. And even with that, I don't think I need to show evidence that that is true. So now I know it's not defamatory. So now I'm thinking, is it obscene? And that's the main thing he was pointing to, that if there were Jewish American students in the audience for that diaspora event, hearing me give that speech, it could make them uncomfortable and they could contact him and he has a situation on his hands. So it's safer to ask me to change my speech and make it more black and white and inclusive to avoid that problem.
Right.
And I said, I don't see what you mean, because if obscenity is what you're asking for, I did not use any slurs. I did not call out the Jewish faith in and of itself. If we want to say that the state of Israel is speaking on behalf of Jewish people around the world, that's a separate issue in and of itself. But at the end of the day, I did not do anything that I could reasonably see
Right.
as obscene,
right,
in any sense of the word. So then the conversation shifted to the fact that the speech was approved by someone else for months, and it was till the last second,
right,
until this event happened that makes it look bad, that would have made people uncomfortable. So now then it switched to, oh, maybe we should have looked over this. And I started to get worried, because I like diaspora means a lot to a lot of people, and it means a lot for them to speak their mind.
right,
And with them wanting to, in the way that we're talking, is they wanted to be careful of certain kinds of topics, in not allow students to speak like that. And I didn't want to be the one to rain on everyone's parade.
right,
So I'm worried now. I'm like, what are the examples? What is the limits that we could call obscene? Because the point of diaspora is for you to see different cultures and see what they go through. I have gone to diaspora for 2 years before this, and I've seen things that would make one person uncomfortable, that would make another person uncomfortable, because it tackles different things and shows you different cultures and beliefs that you aren't used to seeing.
right,
So I understand that part of diaspora is that you're going to see something new, and if you're uncomfortable by that, that's kind of the point.
right,
So I understood that what he's saying didn't really match up. It wasn't lining up. So towards the end of the conversation, they basically said, we apologize for sending mixed signals, is the simple way to put it. They apologized because they understood I had this speech approved. I had this speech approved, recognized, and like pre-approved, ready to go, practiced it, everything, and it was stopped. And the principal apologized to me, saying she should have done a better job of engaging with it. While I wanted to say, I want you to maybe understand that this is a thing that you may not understand. So to cut a long story short, they felt like they gave mixed signals and apologized, and I was still upset. My dad had friends, contacted a legal consultant, and I kind of knew I couldn't really sue or do anything legal in this case, because it was free speech. It's very blank, and it's a school. So I know they could simply just keep pointing back to that obscenity in the school policy, or pointing to the idea of it could cause danger, and make that argument in a legal sense. And there's very little I could do. I could only point to an example of, like, for the diaspora show, I think in both the first and second night, the Somali kids had a Palestinian flag that
Free
they had.
Palestine. Yeah,
Yeah,
both
they had a
nights.
free Palestine flag that they had. That was not approved. They just had it
They
there.
just did it. I loved
It
it
is
too.
they just did it. And no one, at least from my knowledge, went to the head of the diaspora program, went to the principal, went to the superintendent about them doing that. So
Right.
if I did go legal consult, I could point to like they did that and nothing happened. So it could be seen as realistic that if I give my speech, nothing would have happened. But
Right.
so on and so forth. So after that happened, it was a whole. So after that, I basically just kind of dropped the issue until the Dispatch article came out.
And let
So
me kind of take it from right there a little bit, because at that point in time, we come from this meeting with the superintendent and the principal, like he said, myself, Professor Cash, and him, and it's like we're even more upset or annoyed after that meeting. So, contacted some people. Jews for Peace in Palestine was a great organization that we reached out to, and I'm sharing this information with Jewish Americans, and they're more upset than we are. And they're just like, "Look, man, what your son did and said, or the speech he tried to give, is not, obscene. It was not derogatory. It was not hate speech in no way, shape, or form. We are going to stand with you guys." They started writing about it on their social media platforms, on their websites. And then I reached out to the Columbus Dispatch, which is the local paper here in Columbus, and shout out to the young lady who published it. She said, "I want you to write something explaining what happened, and then I want you to send in your son's speech, and we'll publish what you have to say about the situation, and then we'll publish his speech as well." So I just thought she was going to put it in in a small part of the paper, and it would come and go, but she gave us like a full layout on their website. It was really awesome. She asked for a bunch of pictures from when Miller was younger to up to some of his senior pictures, and it was great. And one thing I learned is sometimes people will try to rain on your parade, but when you stand on the side of truth and justice, and you're giving a voice to the voiceless, sometimes that maybe what 500 people on Friday, maybe another 300-400 people on Saturday that came to that program would have heard that speech, which was maybe 800 to 1,000 people, right? But what happened was when the Columbus Dispatch picked up this story and wanted to give him a voice and give me a voice as a father and a parent supporting their child, now this speech and this story, reached way more than 1,000 people. You had relatives over in Liberia, people in other cities and states and countries reading about this article because it was shared, multiple times on different platforms. So that's one thing I learned is to always teach children to stand on the side of the truth, and whether that truth may potentially get them in trouble. As long as they're standing on the side of truth, they're going to win every time. And this was a prime example of that. But one thing I want to say is shout out to Jews for Justice for Palestine, because not only did they share it, not only did they put it on their website, not only did they tell friends to write the principal and to write the superintendent. The first meeting we went to was a board meeting in April. So their regular board meeting was, I believe, the second week of May, second or third week of May, literally the week and a half to 2 weeks before graduation. And we came deep. Myself, Professor Cash, Jews for Justice for Palestine, and we didn't even have to speak. They had people from their organization that stood up and speak in support, and it was standing ovation. People were showing love and giving kudos for Mill for having a backbone and for being a man and standing up, because he could have easily said, you know what, I'm not going to do the speech, or let me just do my speech I was going to do about my mom and coming from Liberia. But he stood up for himself, and I was proud of that. Now, a part of the story I want to go to, and sometimes people say you can be going through storms in life, and you can be going through some rough patches, and all of a sudden a blessing will come out of the blue. Now, at this time, Mill is in real, deep thought about where he's going to go to school. A school that I really liked. I don't think he liked it as much as me. Northern Illinois had gave him like a 75-80% offer. to go there. He had a full academic scholarship from his godfather's alma mater, Alabama A&M, which he did not want to go to, HBCU in Huntsville, Alabama. A school he really wanted to go to, Morgan State, had offered like 75-80% scholarship, and maybe a few other ones, but those were the main ones. And then out of the blue, he comes home and tell my wife and I, hey, I got this Morrell scholarship from Ohio State, 100% full academic scholarship. And we're in the middle of going back and forth with this school and with the school board and the principal and the superintendent. And I thought that was awesome that took place. So talk about that day when you found out about this scholarship offer, even though you were going through some challenging issues as it pertains to the school and the diaspora program.
So originally, so if anyone applies to OSU, if you see in your Common App, it's a separate box for the Morrell Scholarship, a separate essay you had to fill out. Actually, one of my track teammates who did diaspora 2 years before had gotten, or he had gotten the same scholarship, and he had recommended me to apply, knowing my record and things of that and things of that nature, and said, I think you would be good for it. So obviously not gonna turn down a scholarship. So I said, might as well give it a shot. So I wrote my essay and sent it in. Now, when I got the email saying I was accepted and I got the scholarship, I was actually working the Ohio primary election.
The poll, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I was working the polls, so I'm on my feet a lot, so I'm kind of tired. It was probably around, I kind of got the email around 4 or 5 o'clock. So the polls we're in a rush, basically. Like, I don't have a lot of free time to check my phone. So in one of the quiet moments during this rush, I look at my phone and then I just check my email, and I see I got an email from OSU. I'm in college admission mode, so I immediately open it to see what it is, saying you've been accepted for something scholarship. Now, I didn't think much of it at first. I hadn't fully read the email because I had gotten this email from Morgan State. I had gotten this email from Howard. I've gotten this email from Pitt saying you've been accepted for some scholarship. And I know it's probably like $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, covering, like books or something small, but still big, but still not like big enough to like be like, oh, this is a full ride, instead of it's more like financial aid. So I'm slowly read the email, and it said this is covering the cost of eight semesters of tuition. And I'm like, 8 semesters, that's 2 semesters a year, it's 4 years. So you're covering about 4 years of college. And it still didn't make sense because it used very weird language, but
it was funny. Yeah,
it was weird language. So then I read it again. I'm like, I think they said I got a scholarship covering my tuition for 4 years.
Yeah.
And covering the cost of tuition. So I'm like, oh, I just got a scholarship covering my full cost tuition. If I went to OSU, I don't have to only pay for my room and board. That's it. So I'm still I'm excited but confused because I can't immediately go to my parents. I'm at a poll station somewhere else. They're at work. So I'm just like, oh, so I'm like excited. I'm excited a bit. And one of the other poll workers looks at me, and he's like, I'm on my phone typing, and he's like, oh, what happened? I'm like, oh, I just got a full scholarship to OSU covering all my tuition. If I go to OSU, I don't have to pay room and board. And I'm the youngest person in this poll. So everyone else here is like 30 plus. So they're all like, congratulating me and everything. So I asked like, hey, can I step out real quick? And, so I tell my mom tells my dad, and so on and so forth. So it was weird because I had to basically celebrate for like 2 seconds and then get back to working the polls.
Yeah. And another thing is, so after this great achievement of getting a full academic scholarship to Ohio State, we finished doing battle with the school board. We get our point proven. And right around the time we went back to this last board meeting is when the article about the Columbus Dispatch was out. So everybody knew about it. Even the superintendent, Dr. Miller, even I assume he was being a little sarcastic. He had emailed me, said, "Hey, I seen the article, you know, blase blase." Like, yeah, whatever, dude. This could have been avoided had we, handled this in a different way. But right after that, it's time for graduation, man. So, you were up to potentially speak at graduation and did like a tryout or a test run to see if your speech would be permissible to speak at the graduation. Kind of talk about that a little bit before we go into graduation and get to the end of the conversation.
So I'm not valedictorian, but
Well, first off, your school is goofy because they don't even have one, which is just dumb.
I don't have
That's a
so
discussion
yes,
for another day.
but so I'm not valedictorian, so anyone can speak, but you have to submit you have to audition. So I write my speech and I audition it in front of a lot of the the admin of our high school, and I wasn't picked. It was only about 7 kids who chose to audition. I wasn't picked. 2 other people were picked, and their speeches were great. But I didn't really think much of it. I knew that there were other people there who had great speaking skills, so I knew it was going to be done well either way. So,
But if President Obama's speechwriter would have written your speech, do you think you would have gotten picked? Like, me personally, I don't think no matter what you put down there was no way they were going to allow you to speak
I
because they would have been worried about the risk of you going rogue and saying something about Palestine, which anybody that knows
I
you and know your
I
character know
don't
you wouldn't do that.
I don't believe I don't believe that was something on their mind. I really don't, because the only person who would have been worried about that would have been the only 2 people who didn't worry about that would have been the superintendent and the principal. I feel like every other admin person I had there, I know on some level, and they know me on some level. I don't think I don't think they would think I would go rogue uh and do that, and I know I wouldn't have. I This is so many other people's moment that it would be incredibly selfish of me to make this moment about
Of course,
myself and
of
about
course,
that. So I don't I wouldn't have done it. If they thought that, then that's why they didn't pick me, then I guess. But
yeah.
it is what it is. But I don't think that's the reason why.
Yeah. I mean, that's the difference between me and you. I'm gonna always think that to the day I die, but it's neither here nor there. You know what I mean? Um, as graduation comes and goes, it was a great, great celebration. Your friends and family had an opportunity to celebrate you multiple days because your school changed the time of the graduation, what, 2 weeks before, 3 weeks before. So we end up having something here at the house and then something the next day at Driver Park, which we had originally planned. So it was great to see your friends and family be able to celebrate you. Now, Mill had asked us years ago, I don't even know what grade you were in when you asked us, well, when I graduate, instead of having a party, instead of going to prom, instead of doing all these things that high school seniors do, can you guys just consolidate that money and put it into me going to Japan? How old were you when you asked us that? I don't remember. I want to say
I
seventh or
don't
eighth grade.
You gave me the option. It wasn't me just saying that. But I remember you gave me the option after our family trip to the Cayman Islands, where I stayed inside for the majority of the time because I don't like the heat. So he was just like, so then he just gave me one trip. Either get one trip or a really big grad party. Which one do you want? I picked the trip and I said Japan.
So what made you want to go to Japan? What was so
I've always
intriguing about Japan?
I've always been intrigued by Japanese culture, especially with Japanese animation, Japanese film, and things of that nature. Um, then as I got older, just then it morphed into beyond anime and morphed into fashion, and then it turned into just transportation, and really anywhere that has transportation, because I hate driving my car.
Yeah, we learned that when we were in Japan. So let's talk about the trip, man. We were in Japan for 9 days and 8 nights. Just got back about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago, man. What was the most fun part of the trip? I think I know this answer. And would you recommend people to go to the country of Japan and the city of
Um,
Tokyo in particular?
the most fun part was the baseball game. Uh, Playing baseball my whole life, and then seeing how another culture just takes the game. And it wasn't like they were playing that much different than American baseball. It was just the atmosphere.
Hmm.
And the simplest way I can describe it is if you've ever been to a HBCU football game, that's what their baseball games are like. So
Yeah,
it's very different from American baseball, which can sometimes feel like golf, where you're standing on needles, trying not to make too much noise and things
right.
of that nature. So it was very fun, very intriguing. You never really felt like the game was boring or anything like that as well. And I would recommend Japan to a select group of people. I if you're not comfortable walking a lot, if you don't like
Yeah,
walking a lot, then don't.
don't go. That's a
If
fact.
you want to stay in your resort the entire time, don't go. Um if you're a loud person, don't go. Just
Yeah.
gonna say that ahead of time. But
As far as
besides
the
that,
walking, not to cut you off, as far as the walking, if you have a lot of money to spend on taxis and Uber, then cool. Because you have to walk unless you go. Because the first day, Mill kind of left me, so I was kind of by myself. I went to the mall, which was literally 3.5 to 4 miles from our hotel, and it was $18 there and $18 back. So I was just like, hold on, I just spent too much money to go to the mall. It was crazy when I could have took the train for like $1.50 there and back. That's how cheap the train was. So unless you have a lot of money to spend on Ubering and taxis, then cool. But if you don't, then you're gonna be doing a lot of walking. So get some good walking shoes, and stay hydrated. And the funny part is, Mill, as much as he hates heat, I said, as the old folks say, look at God. It was so hot in Japan the whole time we were there. I've been to Egypt, and that's probably the hottest I've been in my life. But it's a different type of hot because you're in the desert, so it's a dry heat. It's no humidity in the desert. But in Japan, especially when we went downtown, Tokyo and Shibuya, where you have the skyscrapers and all the buildings, it's like that humidity gets stuck in those buildings. And I mean, as soon as you step outside, you're sweating. Like it was uncomfortably hot. You know what I mean? So don't go in July and August, but because of graduation and him starting school in the next week, the July was the only month we could go. They say July and August are the two worst months to go to Japan because of the humidity. But it was a great experience. The baseball game was the funnest part for me as well. That first day when I went to the mall, Mill had went downtown, and I went to a high school baseball game by myself. And I just seen the excitement from the people and how they love baseball at the high school level. I'm like, I know a professional game is going to be even crazier. So later on that week, the professional team had a game, and we went the Marines versus, I forget the name of the team they
the
played, but I just
fighters,
know what
the
was the what
fighters,
the Fires,
fighters.
which was Shohei Otani's old team, which was great in itself. But it was a great experience. Beautiful country, super clean, like Mill said. And I think I understand why he likes Japanese culture because they remind me a lot of him. They're to themselves. They're not very loud. You know what I'm saying? They're very private people, but they're very nice. The people were very nice. When you're on the train, no talking. You know what I mean? The kids and as well as the adults and elders, everybody just has a humongous amount of respect for you, and that's the part I loved about it. The food was great. They had something for everybody, no matter how you ate. You know, vegetarian, vegan, carnivore diet, like whatever you ate, they had something for you, and it was cost effective. Like shopping was really cheap, so if you like to shop, that would be a great place to go. If you're a foodie, it's a great place to go. If you like city life, downtown Tokyo, Shibuya type area. My cousin Shell, her kids and Brian came over from Chicago and met us there, and they love to shop. So we went down on Cat Street, which was dope to see a lot of the high end places I would never shop. But if that's your thing, it's definitely great. And if you like trains, only thing I hate we didn't get to take the bullet train to Osaka because it was a maintenance train derailment. But other than that, the trip was great. and we had a blast. And I definitely would recommend going. I'm definitely going to go back again in the future. Take my wife, because only me and Mill that went. So as you get ready and get prepared to go off to school, you made a short video kind of promoting something that you and Ari Maida have been working on, and that's your documentary, helping parents and helping students with college. Talk a little bit about this documentary and what phase are you guys in, and how soon will people be able to watch it, especially with school getting ready to start here in the Midwest and really all over the country.
So, um, so me and Ari were introduced to each other, what, 2020 or 2021?
I know. I think it was 2019, because the first time you guys took the ACT online, he was online and we were at Driving Park. So I think it was 2019 when you were in the eighth grade, if I'm not mistaken.
Was it? Because I
19
believe
or
it
20,
20,
one of the
because
two.
I believe it was during COVID though.
Okay.
And me and Ari had stayed in touch since then, mainly being ACT study partners for both of us. And then after we had both taken the ACT our junior years, we helped other people study for the ACT, and then that turned into this. So me and Ari are fortunate enough to be going to two major universities. I'm going to OSU. Ari's going to, I believe, North Carolina Chapel
UNC Chapel Hill.
Hill. So, and we're both fortunate to have great grades, good test scores, and things of that nature. And throughout the process, and especially after I had just done my diaspora project, um, I think that was the first moment where I had realized, like, okay, I think I'm good at this. I think I'm not just someone messing around with the editing software. I think I'm good at this. So, and I think I'm good at managing a team as well, or somewhat decent at it. So and and then after that, I remember people were asking me for help with their college stuff. I remember someone asked me, "Hey, can you read my essay? Hey, what should I do with this and that?" And it wasn't a lot, but it was just help here and there. And I knew I was gonna get these questions from my friends who are juniors, about to be rising seniors now, and I knew, and me and Ari both kind of realized we both have a lot of knowledge being in these spaces of college admissions, and being two people who can read the room and read through some of the stuff colleges say. And we decided to make um a straightforward guide for people when it comes to how to navigate college admissions, that speaks to um this speaks to teenagers at where they're at, and gives them a realistic expectations to have when going through it. And I made the announcement, I think I made the announcement in June, and right now I've recorded one that I'm still editing, but getting ready for OSU's kind of delayed that, but I should have that next part done. So I haven't forgot about the series. But then when we get pretty deep into it, probably if I can get 2 more parts, 2 or 3 more parts done, probably by what, today's August. So probably by like mid-September, October, I'll probably want to make one big one and release that before Halloween, and release a decent 30-minute to 45-minute video just detailing everything that we have about college ambitions, and gearing it more towards students so they can get a good understanding of what's going on.
Cool. So it won't be released in segments. It'll just be released in one big 30 or 40-minute
We want to
shebang.
release it in segments so I can get like specific individual advice that people may have, because I know Common App just opened today, I believe,
Yeah, it did.
for
Yeah,
people.
your brother sent me a text.
Yes, so Common App just opened today. So I know I want to get that out so people can start doing that, how to pick colleges, how to do that, and get all that out for them. And then I can focus on everything else.
Sweet, sweet. And as we get ready to close, man, um, definitely can't wait to see that documentary that you guys have been working so hard and diligently on, and sharing it with young people, especially young people that I work with at Driving Park and some of the other rec centers that we come in contact with. And it's an exciting time. And I remember my freshman year in college. My freshman year in college changed my life. It's the year I met your mom. I met some of my lifelong friends, guys that I call brothers, that have been in my life since. So enjoy that time, enjoy those moments. I know I don't have to tell you to, lock in on your schoolwork, because you got to keep a 3.0 to keep that Morel scholarship, which I'm sure you can do that in your sleep. You know what I mean? But enjoy the moment. One funny thing is Mill made a video. I felt like it took him forever to make it because he was like, I'm making my decision video. I mean, we knew it was Ohio State, but he wanted to share it with his friends on social media and family members. And it was funny. If you haven't seen it, check it out, about him choosing Ohio State, when he really would have loved to go into Michigan because he's a Michigan fan, and not taking a scholarship because he is a Michigan fan. I thought that was hilarious. Everybody was like, "Yo, that was super funny." So great video, but enjoy the moment and embrace it. We know you're going to do good. I mean, it's hilarious because you got to report on Sunday, which is what, 2 weeks before the other students get there. So engineers have to report a little early than everybody else.
Yeah, some majors, if you choose to do a program for that major, you gotta report early. And I just wanted to get it over and done with, so I don't have to deal with trying to move in with 45,000 other people.
Yeah, yeah. So, hey, man, anything you have to say or anything you want to share with us in closing as it pertains to tonight's conversation?
Mm-mm. I'm probably right after this gonna finish packing up some stuff and then uh do my dishes and probably probably finish editing this piece tonight before so I can go to bed for work tomorrow.
Do your dishes. That's funny. This is your brother is so upset because they have to do dishes by the week, and this is Mill's last week. So Saturday night will be his last night to do dishes, and it'll just be Johnny and the dishwasher moving forward. But no, man, again, we're proud of you. We are excited. I'm glad you got out of your comfort zone in certain areas with this senior year. Your mom and I didn't know that you were that good at editing and putting together a short film. That film made its rounds. People all over the country and the world had an opportunity to see it. They had a chance to read your speech. And, like the old folks say, man, one door can be closed and then multiple will open. And that's exactly what happened. The people at the diaspora program wasn't able to hear the speech, but people around the globe was able to read the speech and hear what you had to say. And I say this to parents, I've been saying it and I'll continue to say it. When children are standing on the right side of an issue, support them. Because if we don't support them, then in the future, when they have an opportunity to stand up for themselves, they won't, because they'll remember mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, brother, sister didn't back me up. So make sure we hold them down and we are there to protect them in moments when they need our help. And again, we're proud of you. We are so elated to see what this next chapter of your life is going to look like. But we know for a fact that you're going to do well and be an example to your brother and some of your other younger cousins who are coming right behind you. Your brother is going to be a senior in 2 weeks, starting his senior year. So this is an exciting time. Your mom and I are that much closer to being empty nesters, but I feel like you're going to be like Theo from the Cosby Show, coming home to eat often because your mom's a 5-star chef. So I know you'll be getting home and get some of those good meals. But thanks to everybody for watching, and hopefully you can share this with a friend or relative about the college experience, some of the things we talked about Japan, supporting students, and just overall a good conversation, a good dialogue with the father and the son that can hopefully be, inspirational in some ways to you and your family. So we appreciate you guys for checking this out, and maybe sooner than later you'll see my brothers back with me, Kurt, Bonds, my brother Jay, Ant, and the whole Church After Hours crew coming back sooner than later. Thank y'all. Peace and blessings.